10 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I don't know how resistant you are to technology, but I don't think we should be resistant. I think for the most part, it makes our lives better, don't you think?
I do.
But I have been guilty of being resistant, or at least reluctant with some things. I said, well, what do I need that for, you know? And yet, when I finally get whatever it is I'm referring to, and there's so many examples, it would just take too much time. But trust me, there's a lot of examples I say, why did I wait so long, you know? John Miley's on the phone. He's the senior assistant editor of the Kiplinger letter, and he's on the phone to tell us about the special year-end report from Kiplinger. Good morning, John. Thank you for being on the air. It's an honor to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Where are you? Where are you calling from?
We're based in Washington, D.C., so that's where I am.
All right. So did the report surprise the whoever put it together? Did you put it together?
It was me and a few other people on our staff. I think it did have some surprises. We do forecasts here at Kiplinger, but we did a little bit longer view. We were looking for the next decade. So sometimes when they do that, some of your assumptions can be a little bit put to the test if you're looking a little bit longer out.
Do you know, the first thing I wanted to ask you about is medical breakthroughs, because it seems like if you look back in history, we basically didn't know what we were doing. Right? I mean, now it seems like science has figured out what to do as far as our health goes, but in the past, we kind of didn't know. And everybody who thinks Vicks Vapor Rub works, I'm with you. I think it does too, but it really probably doesn't do anything. But we paid money to put something on our chest, and we thought we felt better, right?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. For if you haven't looked closely at sort of what's happening, whether it's sort of cancer research, and then you sort of take a deeper dive, and even like the past 5 or 10 years, it's remarkable. But we looked at a few things that included personalized medicine, sort of the DNA sequencing is another one. Right now, it costs about $1,000 to sequence DNA. It was far more than that when they first started, and we think in the next 10 years, it's going to be even cheaper, so much so that most people will have it done sort of when they're born. So I guess the way we put it was that DNA sequencing cheap and ubiquitous by 2027.
Can you help me understand?
And that matters. So
can you help me understand what that is? I don't even know what DNA sequencing is.
Sure, it would be sort of taking stock of your genetic makeup, and then you can actually flag risks for which diseases you might develop. And so if you know which diseases you might develop, you might be able to do some type of treatments that could either help or prevent some of those diseases. For example, you can steer women at risk of breast cancer to chemoprevention and other treatments that might help.
One thing about the Kiplinger letter is that it allows people to open up a dialogue about different things without feeling embarrassed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We have a lot of readers in actually a lot of different industries. So we try to tell them as plainly as we can about some of these technologies. I cover a lot of the technology and automation stuff, and it's definitely a task to get the people we talk to explain it in plain English.
So is the report? I know we only have a short time to talk about it on the air. Is the report available to everybody? Can we look at it?
I think that we'll have something online in the coming weeks.
Okay.
But most of it is in our paid newsletter.
Do you do it every 10 years or every year, or how often do you do this?
Every year we have a special year-end report, and it's a lot of the times it is looking far out at some of these emerging technologies, and a lot of it this year was looking at like progress, like what to be optimistic about.
Yeah, and what we have in the we broadcast to a couple of cities here, and there's a vast difference in the demographics between the cities. One of them is a university town, which is Gainesville, Florida, and I'm sure you would guess that that's got a young demographic, and they have embraced the self-driving technology. They're going to put a bus up there that doesn't require a driver.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking that's probably going to be the way of the future. But it seems to be that young people in general embrace the new stuff first. I don't know if that's an observation that's even worthy of mentioning, but it just seems like it to me.
I think that's true, and I think there have been some reports where actually reporters and others have driven in a fully autonomous car. So there's no one at the steering wheel, and this was still in a sort of not a real location yet. It was sort of a closed-off area. But yeah, I think that's true. And then, I mean, there's already been some testing, like you mentioned, and then I think next year there'll be even more. The first driverless cars will probably be like taxis in certain areas, either Uber or Lyft. I do think you're right that younger people will hop on board those and other technologies quicker.
I'll give you an example, just so you know that I'm 63, and well, that you need to hear this, because I will go to McDonald's and automatically go to the counter, and I notice all the young people are at those big kiosks. And I said to the manager one time, I said, am I typical of an old person and they're typical of young people? He said, yes. The old people still come up here. If it wasn't for the old people, we wouldn't need this counter. and I thought, well, I'm going to change my way. I'm going to be like, yeah. And so I started learning how to use that.
Yeah, you see more and more fast food places like that order from a mobile app from your smartphone, and then the tablets, and that's part of the automation that we talked about. Although they are seeing some stores that actually end up having to hire more people to serve all the people that they have. Also, it's a potential way to get more sales. You can sort of upsell people, hey, do you want to buy this drink? And sort of match it with the right...
Oh, really?
So
see, that
stores like that.
Well, it seems like your letter aids in the marketing of different things then, too, that people won't even think of.
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about a lot the tablets, the salespeople using automated email. So you sort of have that smart assistant that it can answer sort of clients' emails. That it sounds like a person, but it's not. So you can answer a whole lot more emails than you otherwise could, and then pick and choose the ones you think are going to lead to a sale.
Is there anything,
stuff like that?
Is there anything in the forecast, and this is probably somewhat presumptuous, I guess, but is there anything in the forecast that indicates that technology in some way will make us a more peaceful planet? I mean, will Kim Jong-un get a little toy that helps him calm down or something? Do you know what I mean? I hate to be flippant about it, but is there anything that... Because the one thing, I mean, you don't want to think of people starving while the rest of us are, riding Uber and ordering McDonald's. Right.
I personally have and I think we mentioned this a little bit, have a sense of optimism about the technology, because a lot of it can be used by most people. If you go to the U.S., a whole lot of people already have smartphones, so a lot of the technology does filter down, though it does sort of help those superstar workers the most. And if you look especially at automation, it does hurt low-wage jobs. Sort of risk of displacement is the most. But in general, I am optimistic about this. It does involve smart policy and other planning, I think, to fend off some of the risks.
Right.
Are all the departments that come together for this special year-end report, are there some things that they talk about that they can't put in the letter?
Yeah, I think we definitely had a lot of stuff that we mostly focused this one on some of the automation technologies in healthcare and food. That was sort of the limitations of that. So that was we definitely didn't fit everything into it.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading the whole thing. Artificial intelligence is included, robots of the future. I mean, you look ahead to the year 2027. When you look back at the year 2007 and what the report said then about 2017, is it accurate? I mean, what were you predicting back then? Do you know?
I think one example we might have been a little too bullish on some of the electric cars. In general, I mean, obviously biased, but think we have a pretty good track record of looking at it. But I think that for sure it's hard to predict sort of what people thought the internet would be. The majority of internet use is probably streaming Netflix and using Facebook. I don't know if people could have predicted those two things. Right. In 2000 or back then.
Well, fun stuff. John, the website is Kiplinger.com. Is there a link on the website to see the report? You said in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and Kiplinger.com is the best place for sure.
Okay. John, thank you. Have a Happy New Year.
Okay, great. Yeah, Happy New Year.
All right, we will be right back. You're listening to The Source, WOCA.
Has angered his support.